Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Clearly Focused. I am Kaylee Ely, your host for this podcast, and I'm so happy to be here. It is December. It is finally cold outside. It literally snowed last night, which is so early for Tennessee. We never get snow. So, wherever you are, I hope that you are enjoying the weather, whatever it is, whether it's still warm, cold, freezing cold. I love winter, so this is my favorite time of year. So, just bundle up. We get some hot coffee, get a warm sweater and boots and fuzzy socks, which is my favorite thing ever is fuzzy socks. I love fuzzy socks. Anyways, you're not here to listen to what I love about winter, but just wanted to wish you all well. Hopefully busy season is winding down for you guys and you guys are getting to enjoy the holidays coming up. Engagement season is around the corner. We are keeping an eye on the inbox. Make sure you are set up and ready to go for all those influx of inquiries you're going to get. Manifestation, right? That's what we have to think about. Okay, anyways, starting all over the place. I hope you guys are doing good. Today's episode can be a little bit of a tricky topic, especially because everybody handles it in their own way. So it's kind of hard. Like, I can give all the advice I want, and it's kind of stuff that I would do, but you might not want to run your business that way. You might disagree with me, and that's totally fine. We can all have opinions here. That's the good thing about being able to run our own business is we can run it however we want. But we're going to talk about dealing with difficult clients and maybe setting some boundaries with them, which happens a lot when you run your own business. No matter what kind of business you run, you will always encounter some difficult clients. And the scale of that difficulty obviously ranges on the situation, ranges on the client. It also ranges on you as a business owner and your stress level, like how what one situation that might stress you out might not stress me out and vice versa. So that's again why it's just so like a variant topic, but we are going to talk a little bit about it today. So before we really get to chatting, I want you to take a couple breaths, and maybe you are currently dealing with a difficult situation, especially around the holidays. The whole like, where are my photos, where are my photos, where are my photos? Emails are probably becoming more frequent, but alas, we are going to talk about some of that stuff today, but we are going to take just our 30 seconds here, close our eyes, take some deep breaths, cool off. Maybe whether there's like distance of like years between them when this difficult situation happened, or hours, months, whatever. Maybe it's never happened to you before. We're just going to take some time to settle ourselves, center ourselves before we get into the craziness of difficult clients. Okay, so before we get into how to set boundaries, I want to talk about why we should set boundaries and why. I mean, the first and foremost reason is like creating a healthy boundary between you and your client is just, it's not only healthy for them, but it's healthy for us. We're setting realistic expectations. We're trying to obviously kind of get a mutual goal between the two of us to figure out, what they want, what I want, what can we actually realistically expect, that kind of stuff. But we also really want to be protecting our creative energy as an entrepreneur, because that's like what our business thrives on, obviously. So we want to be able to make sure that we're able to provide an excellent service for all of our clients, not just one. So I know there's so many times where most of your clients might be chill. Maybe they don't respond at all, which kind of sucks, but like they're pretty chill. And then you might have one client who's just like overbearing, always messaging you, always asking you where the gallery is, if you can make an adjustment, can you add in more sneak peeks? When are their photos coming? Like, we all have that client. We all have maybe multiple of those clients, and they can drain the ever-loving crap out of your creative energy. We all know who those clients are. Luckily, I have had a pretty good experience with most of my clients, and I really don't have a lot of those. I don't really have a lot of those types of people, I guess. I don't know if it's because of who I am as a person. Maybe I already kind of set pretty good expectations. Or maybe I'm just very lucky and I just don't get people who are very annoying. I get that occasionally, but in a very like understandable way. So, typical scenarios that people could be Obviously, kind of where boundaries are tested would be endless editing requests, like edit this out, fix this hair, do this, make this strap look weird, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Maybe unrealistic timelines. Maybe they're like, can we get our whole gallery back before Christmas so we can get Christmas photos out? Or I want to use them as Christmas gifts. We get a lot of those timelines like, oh, if I do my proposal on Saturday or Friday night, can you give me my gallery back Saturday? That kind of stuff. Or maybe it's just someone who's communicating with you constantly outside of your business hours, your working hours. I am going to talk about all of those things, hopefully, answer some questions that you might have about them. And the biggest thing that I would want to share with you guys, first and foremost, is to be proactive about the situation and not reactive, okay? Basically meaning if you can set all of these things up from the beginning and set those expectations up from the moment that they basically inquire with you or like throughout that first process, then you're going to be doing yourself a favor and you're going to be doing your client a favor. Because if you can answer their questions before their questions, then that saves you from having to answer the questions when they have them. So you're answering them on your time, basically, versus answering them on their time. So whether that's 11 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock in the morning, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, on a day that you're not working, on a time that you're not working, if they have a question about, hey, just checking in, when are my photos coming? Hey, can you edit this out? Whatever it is that they're asking, you are able to hopefully proactively answer their questions during this booking process by saying, galleries come in X amount of days or weeks. This is what I edit. This is what I don't edit. If you want to add on extra edits, this is how that process works. So that way they already have that information and they don't need to be texting you or emailing you or calling you or messaging you on Instagram or responding to your story that has nothing to do with what their question is, just to ask you that question because you've already put it in an FAQ guide. You've already talked to them about it. You've already highlighted it in their contract, whatever it is. You've been proactive about it and you've already answered pretty much any of the questions that they could ask. Does that mean they read it? No, not always. Does that mean they'll still ask that question? Sometimes, yes. Like they either really just didn't read it or they forgot or they don't want to pull up the contract and look at it themselves. So they're just going to ask you because it's faster. Or they generally just like don't care and they want to ask you that anyways, even though they know it because they're hoping you'll give them a different answer or you'll say it's going to be happening faster than the contract says. Like there could be a plethora of reason for them still asking you, but as long as you're being proactive about it, then you can always just say, answers in the contract. I mean, like in a nice way, obviously, in like a more elaborate, eloquent way than just like it's in the contract. But basically, you can always just say, refer back to my contract, refer back to my contract, refer back to my contract, because you've already answered that question. And so then you kind of have that like ball rolling ahead of time. So going back to contracts, this is why it's important to have a clear contract between you and your client that's going to state anything about what your deliverables are, like how many images you're going to deliver, your timelines, like how quickly you'll turn around your photos to them, payment terms, like not just the payment dates, but the payment amounts, the payment timeline, like when they'll be taking payments, how often they're due, when's the last one due, how do you take payments, all that kind of stuff. And basically anything on like cancellations, revisions, extensive edits, that kind of stuff. If you have that all in your contract, then it's going to protect you in the long run because they can't come back to you and say, oh, well, it doesn't say in your contract that you don't Photoshop, so you can Photoshop this. So just things like that, just making sure that you have that contract in place beforehand is going to be protective for you. It's going to give your clients the answers they need before they hopefully ask the questions anyways. But what I like to do is for the frequently asked questions that I get, because that's the thing about, again, being proactive and not reactive, you know the kinds of questions that people are going to ask because you get asked them all the time. So just think about the questions that people repeatedly ask you and make an FAQ sheet. I put that FAQ sheet in my contract. Honeybook has this amazing stuff now that's called Smart Files, and it allows you to make like a multi-page, clearly broken down, visually appealing document to send to your clients. So the first page I have is a welcome page. It's a little introduction. It has a bunch of my photos. It has my mission statement. It has a little bit about me. And obviously, those are all tailored to which specific type of shoot I'm doing. So if it's family, if it's maternity, if it's wedding, all of that kind of stuff. And that's just awesome to have as like another little spot to highlight your work, introduce who you are. The second page is my frequently asked questions because that's what I get. So I think I have like 7 on there. I'm not sure exactly how many I have, but definitely highlighting turnaround time. And I say specifically on there, like how long galleries take, like session galleries take and how long wedding galleries take. And if you do sneak peeks, this would be a good spot to include, like, I will include sneak peeks within X amount of days. Some people don't like to put it in their contracts because that way they're not held reliable or whatever for delivering sneak peeks, because it doesn't say anywhere in their contract that they deliver sneak peeks. But I don't think I have anything in my contract about sneak peeks, but I have an FAQ page that has a little spot about sneak peeks. So it's in writing technically, but it's not in my contract, if that makes sense. As far as sneak peeks go, the timeline for sure is in my contract. And then I have like, how will I receive the photos? I talk about the gallery and how it's online, how they can download everything from there. They'll get a print release. They can print through the gallery, but if they don't want to print through there, here are other places I recommend. And then I link like 4 or 5 different places to go. I talk about what I Photoshop, which I Photoshop anything temporary. So bruises, scratches, acne, things that will not be in there in a week. And then I state my price for if you want more extensive editing, like something that's going to take more time or whatever, like changing colors of shirts and whatnot. It gets asked, people. It gets asked. I put in there, if you want more extensive editing, then it's going to take X amount of dollars per photo. And that would be done after the full gallery is delivered. So that way they can go through and select the specific photos they want to apply those extensive edits to. And then I can send them a separate invoice for those extensive edits on however many images they chose with the price per image of the editing. That way they know they have to wait till they get the whole gallery back, and they can pick not just from the sneak peeks, but all of their photos, which one they want those edits to. I think I do a travel fee. So I have a question on my FAQ sheet about travel and how, like, I break it down a little bit more to explain like how I charge for travel. But those are some things that you can include on an FAQ sheet, and it's literally right there before they even get to the contract, because that way it's like the biggest, I talk about retainers and when the full payment is due. So, X amount of dollars is due at the time of signing the contract. The rest of it is due at this date or whatever, which is different for everybody. But for sessions, I do a week before the session, just because it can be, we can reschedule sessions because of sickness and weather and all that kind of stuff. So those are all my FAQ page questions. And then they get to the contract where everything is more laid out, is the next page. And then the next page after that is the invoice with everything broken down item by item. And then after that is where I take the payment. And then after that is a little thank you paper, sign, whatever. Thank you page. There we go. And so that is like what I send my clients when someone says, I want a book, send the contract. So I send that whole thing. It's like 5 or 6 pages long, but it's super easy because it's just broken down page by page, and you hit next and go on to it. Anyway, Sunnybook is great. If you don't have it, you should get it. But with all that being said, I would definitely go ahead and separate, like, obviously you're doing what you can before that by sending the FAQ questions, by answering the questions they have in the booking process. But there's also other things you can do beforehand by like setting communication boundaries. So something a lot of people do is they'll put their like hours of operation in their email signature, so that every single time they're emailing their client anything, their email signature says their business hours. So that way they don't have to worry about reiterating it. But I know a lot of people also who, like, once they send the contract, you can have an automation if you want to, especially if you have HoneyBook, set up an automation that's like, once the contract is signed, send an email and say, yay, everything's official. So happy to work with you guys, blah, blah, blah. As a reminder, I prefer communicating through email or through text or whatever it is via the hours or during the hours of X to X on days X to X. That way people know when you're working and how they best should reach you. And so they either get like a separate email that like only talks about communication, and it's like, boom, straightforward, bullet point, easily digestible chunk of information. Or just having it in their face repeatedly in the email signature is also a good way to do it as well. But I know office hours are hard for some people because they work full-time jobs, and maybe sometimes you can respond during your full-time job and maybe sometimes you can't. Or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom as well as a full-time business owner, and your hours are going to be split. They're not going to be like stable. And so it's kind of hard to set those specific hours up, but you can still tell people how you prefer to be communicated with via email, via text, whatever. And even just being upfront with them about that beforehand and saying like, look, this isn't my full-time job. I also do this or whatever. So my hours of operation might be a little wacky, but I promise I'll get back to you within 48 hours, like, or within whatever, within a day, within 2 days, whatever, just so that way they know, okay, I understand she's not at her desk Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, focusing on photography related stuff. So I have to wait. It might be an 11 o'clock response while she's up feeding the baby or something like that. So just like making sure that you're communicating with people beforehand about like how you want to be communicated with and when you want to be communicated with, whether that's organizing them through text messages, through emails, just so you can avoid like losing messages and anything like that. There are clients who do like to over communicate, like constantly messaging you outside of your business hours, asking for updated windows or something like that. But what I would do in that situation, because it does happen, I know a lot of people, it honestly frustrates them because they're like, I say my hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and they'll be texting me at like 8 p.m. or something like that. Or they text me on a Saturday. It's like, I'm shooting a wedding. I can't respond. Here's the thing, guys. I don't let that bother me because number one, I have a million other things I got to be stressing about. And I'm sure you do too. Let it go. People are going to text you. You cannot control when people text or email you. They're going to do it when it works best for them, even if it's outside of your business hours, because not everybody's going to remember, like maybe they have their own job Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and they're not going to be able to email you and ask a question or something like that. So they're going to respond. They're going to email you. They're going to reach out to you whenever it works best for them. Try not to let that frustrate you because, again, it's not something that you can control. There are ways you can control how you react to it. And there are ways that you can separate, like I have the iPhone, which has been a huge help since they've separated out your do not disturb modes of doing personal and work and all that kind of stuff. And so I have a work do not disturb and a personal do not disturb. So for my personal do not disturb, when I quote unquote clock out for the day, like when I'm done working for the day, I turn my personal do not disturb on. So that's going to block all work notifications. Every single email that comes through gets blocked, gets silenced. I don't see it. Every single Honeybook notification, silenced. I have all my clients' contacts blocked. Like, that sounds so harsh. Blocked, muted, whatever word you want to use for that specific time, like while my personal do not disturb is on. And that means that like Instagram, like literally anything that I'm going to associate with work is going to be on my silenced during this personal time. And then it's kind of opposite for my work. So once I clock in for the day and I'm sitting down and I'm doing work, I turn on my work do not disturb. That's going to mute all my like Amazon notifications and like my Kindle notifications and just like things that might be distracting for me because I don't want to be distracted while I'm working. And it's going to allow notifications from my clients and from Honeybook and calls and that kind of stuff too. So there's ways that you can set those boundaries yourself, and it has nothing to do with the client at all. Honestly, as a business owner, that is how it should be. You should not be asking so much of your clients to make sure that they communicate with you in the right way at the right time. They've got their own lives. They've got their own shit that they're trying to deal with. They're going to be doing good just to remember to message you and say, hey, where are we meeting for our session next week? Don't get mad at them for messaging you that at 9 o'clock at night. Like, it's just when they are juggling jobs and families and all of that kind of stuff, just make sure that you have that notification muted so that you don't even see it until you sit down and make the time to respond to your work messages. That also means you have to be diligent about making sure you set time aside to respond to these messages and stuff like that too. So if you're saying to people that you might not respond Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but you're going to respond within 48 hours, make sure you're making time within that 48 hours to get back to people's responses. So if someone is just repeatedly over communicating with you, won't leave you alone, constantly messaging you, there is nothing wrong with asking them to stop or to cool it or to like hold back a little bit. Kind ways to say that would just be like, I love your enthusiasm. I love how excited you are for these photos or for our shoot or for your wedding or whatever. I just kindly ask that you know, whether it's, let's say they're messaging too much and you want them to stop, you just be like, I kindly ask that you keep these messages to like important messages only, just because my phone is getting a lot of notifications from you and I automatically assume every single thing is important, and that makes me like stressed out and want to respond to you immediately. And then I just get pulled away from other clients and work that I need to be doing just to respond to like a funny TikTok video you sent me or whatever it is. So like, can we kindly keep these professional or respectfully keep these professional or something like that? There are so many nice ways that you can talk to people. And if you're ever worried about how someone's going to receive that message, voice note it or send a video message. Those things exist for a reason. You don't have to put makeup on to send someone a video message and say that. That way they can see your face, they can hear your tone of voice, because some people can read so much into just like a word for word text. So that is another thing, is if you have maybe a tricky, scary message that you're trying to send a client that you are worried about how they're going to receive it, use your voice and tell them, like, you can hear it in my voice, just how I gave you an example of how to respond. They hopefully don't get offended by that, because I was nice, right? I'm not over here saying, look, can you please stop it? Like, that has an attitude to it. They could read that attitude if you say that, or like if you type it, you know what I'm saying? So voice messages, video notes are always a smart, easy way to go. They're going to appreciate the fact that you took the extra step to do that, to not hurt their feelings. So it's kind of a win-win, even though it is an annoying extra step you have to take. But hey, if it helps you in the long run and gets them off of your back, then that's kind of what's important, right? So how do you know when to walk away? Sometimes relationships are no longer a good fit for you, whether it's for your business or for your like mental health, your well-being. So how you can close out a specific relationship that is not going to be good for you, and hopefully end on good terms as much as you possibly can. Even if maybe the working relationship didn't go as well as you expected or hoped it would, there's a couple different ways you could do it. It really just depends on, because obviously if you have not performed any services for them, it's a little easier. Well, it's a little harder, sorry. Because if you haven't performed any services for them, let's just say it's a session, even if it's a wedding, and you tell them, look, I don't think we're a good fit anymore. You have that added stress of them being like, oh my gosh, now I have to go find another photographer like X amount of time before my wedding or X amount of time before my session. And we are like totally planning on this and stuff. Here's the thing. That's on them. That's not on you. And I know that sounds really harsh, but honestly, you have to protect your mental health first. And if you stepping away from that situation is what you need to do it, then just say you can't work together and let them move on with their lives. Obviously, try to do it in a kind way, because you want to try to be professional and maintain like a good reputation, obviously. So you want to be as nice and provide as good of an outcome as you can, but like stand your ground and stand up for yourself and say that you have to do this because it's protecting your mental health. Let's just say whether it's during the booking process, after the booking process, at any point, just tell them those words. Like, I don't think we're a good fit. I think there's someone out there who can better serve you and give you exactly what you're looking for, be more dedicated to you, maybe aligns better with your vision for your wedding day or for your session, or your energy is going to match really well. There's so many different ways you could phrase it like that. That's making it almost seem like you are the one who's not the good fit for them, when in reality, I mean, honestly, you guys could just not be a good fit for each other. Like, honestly, you guys could just not be the perfect match as a photographer and client, but you're the one who's going to recognize that because it's what you do for a living. And you're going to be like, you know what? This family session is going to be a little overwhelming, and the mom's going to ask me for everything, and the dad's not going to, like, he's already asked me stuff, or he's already said stuff that the wife has relayed that makes me think that he's not going to be involved in this, and it's just not my cup of tea. It's totally fine to move on from that and just tell them, look, there's another photographer in the area. I totally recommend this person, especially if you have other photographers that you can recommend. That is going to also save the day, because you're giving them a direction to go in. You're not just like leaving them high and dry. So just saying, hey, this photographer is going to be such a better fit for you, or maybe these photographers, I would reach out to them. Their energy is going to match you better. Their availability might accommodate you better. I hate lying. I'm just that kind of person, because I always worry that someone's going to catch me in a lie, and I'd have to explain that later, and I'd feel even worse later than I would feel bad for lying now. So I try to, if that even makes sense to you guys, but I try not to lie as much as possible, just because, I don't know. I don't think anybody should lie anyways. If you don't want to work with someone, you don't want to work with someone. You really don't have to give more of an explanation than that. But in the long run, you still have to be kind about it. Again, that voice message or that video message is going to come in really handy in that situation if you're quote unquote breaking up with a client, because it's going to show the inflection in your voice. It's going to show your compassion in your eyes, that you're like, look, I'm doing you a favor. I'm looking out for you. Like, this is really going to be better for you if you go find someone else, and, just say thank you for your interest in working with me, but, I just think that you're going to be better served by going to a different photographer and that kind of stuff. So that is how I would break up with a client if I was going to break up with a client. It's always a difficult decision to make based on if you think that it's going to continue that way, if you really think they're going to ask too much of you going forward. Sometimes you just have a gut feeling and you just know, but sometimes you just get it by experience, by saying yes to everyone and then being like, yeah, I had a feeling that was going to be difficult. And I took it anyways, and now I'm just kicking myself. But all in all, protect your peace, protect your reputation, be nice always. And hopefully you don't get as many clients that are overstepping. But just remember again that can come from you. Those boundaries can come from you before it can come from the client. Try to put as much as the responsibility on your shoulders instead of theirs, because it's like a store. You're not going to go into Forever 21. Do people even shop there anymore? And be mad that they're not open at 9 p.m. and like bang on their doors and say, how dare you? Like, this is the best time that works for me and you're not open. They don't give a crap. Their doors are closed and locked. The employees are gone. Like, it's how it works. And you have to kind of view your business as a storefront in that manner, because it's like you're setting up your rules, your boundaries as what works best for you. And other people are going to have to respect that. And they might still come and bang on the doors at 9 o'clock at night when the business is closed. But that doesn't matter because the doors aren't going to open. That doesn't mean you have to respond at 9 o'clock at night. That doesn't mean you have to respond on your day off. You can still wait and respond. And I've even done that. Like, people will message me at Friday at like 6 o'clock, which is like just past my time of messages. And I don't work Sunday, Sunday, or Monday. So they will literally have to wait until Tuesday to get a response back from me. And most of the time, they don't say anything else. They send that one text message on Friday, and then I respond on Tuesday and say, hey, hope you had a good weekend, answer their question. And that's it. They don't say, why the frick did it take you so long? Or they don't text me again during the week. Most of the time, they don't text me during the weekend. Maybe they will on Monday morning and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you saw my text message. Even still, I don't respond on Monday. I will wait until Tuesday and say, hey, yeah, I saw your message, but I was spending the weekend shooting a wedding or spending it with family, whatever. Thank you for waiting for my office hours to respond. Give them the answer. Say, hey, like, hope you don't need, or like, let me know if you need anything else. Hope that helps, etc., etc. Be kind about it. Don't get annoyed when people message you multiple times about it just because they just want to make sure it didn't get lost, because that does happen. And it happens because it happens to you all the time. Messages get lost all the time, and sometimes that follow-up message is more of a kind service than it is trying to be an annoying service, if that makes sense. So, it's all a mental thing. It's all about your mental perspective and how you can shift that to accommodate your clients, but also how you can set those boundaries very obviously, or at least as obvious as you can with your clients from the beginning. So I hope all that helps. I hope it doesn't seem like I was rambling or overwhelming you all. But my DMs are always open if you have any questions, or if you want to chat or tell me of some cool responses that you have messaged your clients at work. Yeah, and we'll see you next time on Clearly Focused.